Okay, 9:02, so we'll go ahead and get going. Today, I thought I would chat about just getting prepared for a listing when you actually do get an appointment for a listing. I've had this topic come up actually quite a bit lately as to, how to get prepared, things to ask sellers, different things like that. So I thought it'd be a good topic. I'm not going to go into the residential listing agreement today. I'm just going to go into the actual listing appointment itself, how to get prepared for it, running comps, things like that. So we'll start off with, and again, if you guys have any questions throughout, if you want to pipe in, just type in the chat and then I can unmute you. If you want to pipe in about maybe some things that you ask sellers about, or if you want to add anything to anything that we're talking about here today, just raise your hand in the chat or type in the chat that you'd like to type in, and I will unmute you. So this is just, I guess, a general list of things that I've done over the years, questions that I've come across, things that I've found work well to make my listings go a little bit easier once I do actually get them into MLS and things like that. So we'll start off with questions that we ask the sellers. So starting with the actual scenario, I like to ask them things up front so I know if I need to get contingencies in place and different things like that as we get going in the transaction. So I like to ask them, are they going to be purchasing a replacement property in the area? If so, obviously, I'm hoping to represent them on that as well. If they're not, if they're relocating to an area that I don't service or maybe out of state, I try and see if they have an agent that they're working with already, and if not, if they'd be open to me finding them a reputable agent in that area. So then I can set up a referral agreement and make a little extra cash that way. I'll ask them if they need to close escrow on their current home before they can close escrow on the replacement property. Is this going to be a possible rent back scenario? Will they need to close escrow and have money in their account before they vacate their current home? If so, how many days will they need to vacate after close of escrow? Sometimes they're going to go rent afterwards. So if they need, to have that money in their account, there's usually going to be a day or two lag time for that money to hit their account so that they can hire the movers and move on with whatever they're doing. So these are all things that I need to know when the purchase agreement comes across so I can work it in. Are they going to be doing a 1031 exchange? We need to make sure we get that in place and they have a referral or someone that they're working with for the 1031 exchange. Is a home held in a trust? If it is, there's going to be some additional documents that we need to get in place for the listing agreement. And we need to know if they have a copy of the trust available. If they don't, they need to start locating that because we're going to need to send that over to escrow. Do they have an existing mortgage? If so, how much do they owe? I usually use this information for the net sheet. If you're not doing a net sheet manually, I like to go and get mine from my preferred escrow officer. The reason why I do that is a lot of sellers seem to like that information coming from the escrow company. It has the escrow company logo on it, so on and so forth. I think they feel it's a little more trustworthy if an escrow company has worked up their net sheet. So that's why I ask them, do they have a mortgage? How much is it? Are they current on the mortgage payment? They don't always volunteer this information, and it's pretty important to know that they are current. Sometimes they could be a couple months behind. These are things I like to know. Do they have a notice of default filed on the home? If they do they have a trustee sale notification? Do they have one set there? Because then we need to move a lot faster on some things. and I probably need to get in contact with their lender and see if I can get that postponed. That's a whole nother topic, but this is information that I want to find out from them up front. And then, do they anticipate any title issues due to liens, ownership issues, encumbrances, easements? You know, I like to sometimes also get, if they say yes to these, even if they don't, I'll get title open anyways, just to get some prelims going to see if there is going to be any title issues that can hold up an escrow. Questions that I like to ask them about their home. Typically, I do this when I get to the appointment. Usually the first thing I do when I get to the listing appointment is I ask them for a walkthrough. And these are some of the questions that I might ask during the walkthrough. Sometimes some of these are, you know, on an initial phone call, stuff like that. So have they made any updates during the ownership? Did they keep receipts for the materials, appliances, fixtures, work, etc.? I usually ask them to start getting that stuff together, put it in a folder, stick it in a kitchen drawer, something like that. Is any of the work or appliances, fixtures, etc., is any of that still under warranty? If so, do they have a copy of that warranty that we can provide to the potential buyer? Nuisances in the area. Neighbors, neighborhood parties, traffic, parking congestion. I mean, basically anything. And this is all stuff that's actually on the SPQ. This is a question on there. This is actually important, and a lot of people, a lot of agents actually kind of glaze over this one. But I did hear a little while back of a case where a buyer actually sued the seller after they moved in because the seller didn't disclose that there was basically a teenager in the neighborhood that was just wreaking havoc on the neighborhood. They were, you know, breaking into cars. It was graffiti. It was all kinds of stuff, breaking into homes. It was known. Everybody knew who the child was, or the teenager in the neighborhood, and they actually took the seller to court for not disclosing that. I also came across, we were going to be offering on a property. It was last year, and there was a seller who had some sort of beef or a crazy neighbor or something like that. And this neighbor, it was in a little bit more of a rural area, but this neighbor was shooting out his windows with a BB gun and just causing a lot of problems because they had this beef, and this crazy neighbor knew that this owner was trying to sell his home and he was trying to make it difficult for him. So these are things that buyers need to know, and that will, you know, hopefully provide a little more risk reduction in your transaction. Are there any current defects in the home that should be addressed prior to marketing? Things that could affect the value, you know, plumbing issues, broken fixtures, appliances, you know, mechanical systems, roof issues, foundation issues, plumbing, drainage, any Section 1 items. You know, I like to know that up front. You know, are these things that are going to affect the value of the home? If it's an HOA, is there any pending litigation, any special assessments or potential upcoming special assessments? Sometimes they've been voted on, but they're not implemented yet. Maybe they start, you know, at the beginning of a year or a certain month. That's stuff that buyers are going to need to know because it could increase their HOA fees quite a bit. Any reserves issues, parking, storage restrictions, just any other restrictions in general. I like to ask them what they've liked best about living in the home or in the neighborhood. These could be potential things that are used for marketing. What things that they disliked, possible things that could affect desirability, pricing. This can kind of go along with nuisances sometimes. And it also helps me to prepare for objection handling from buyers. I had a listing years ago, maybe 4 years ago. I called it the impossible house to sell. It was a 3-story house on a hill on the reverse side. So the thing was just stairs everywhere. It had a super, super steep driveway. You actually had to enter it at an angle. And these were things that the sellers stated that, were some of the reasons they were selling the home. The driveway was super steep. There was a set of stairs to get into the front door, and then 2 other sets of stairs to get to the top. And lo and behold, it was a beautiful house, beautifully redone, but it was a detriment. Most of the buyers did not appreciate the layout of the home, and how many stairs there were, and the driveway itself. Some of the buyers are actually scared of the driveway. So we actually, the home should have sold for a higher price, but we had to kind of chip down the price a little bit until we can get it to a point where the buyers were happy enough with the home at that price to deal with the stairs and so forth. What else do we have? Just anything else that could affect the value positively or negatively. And then I like to ask them if they have a price in mind, because I want to see if what they have in their head kind of matches what the comps are that I have pulled up for the home. So running comps. So I'm going to provide this this PDF when I do the replay, but I'm going to go ahead and just do a live search here of how I usually comp a home. I know there's a lot of automated systems out there. Some agents use Zillow, which I do not recommend. I know RPR's got one. There's just a ton of automated ones out there. And I feel, that the few times that I've looked at them, they have a lot of flaws, I think, and they don't necessarily show market trend, which is what I want to see when I'm pricing a home. Obviously, everything's on the up right now, but I want to see, how many days on market are average. I like to look at pending sales, because obviously, if the home is pending, it was priced at a point where, buyers made offers on it. So let's just do a very basic search here, and we'll comp out a home. So let's say we're going to look for a single family. This is basically just a search in reverse. And I like to do the map search. I usually go, let's see here. We'll just kind of pick an area up here. So this area's got a lot of tract style homes. Let's say we'll do right here. I like to stick as close by as possible. So this would be a very suburban neighborhood. Yeah, Cecilia, we will provide a copy of the seller questionnaire sheet. So let's do this neighborhood right here. I happen to know that this neighborhood is all one builder's homes. So I want to try and stick as close to this as possible, but I know that we get into this neighborhood and this is going to be a similar year. This neighborhood right here is higher up on a hill, and generally they're a little higher priced. So I'm going to try and stick a little closer to this neighborhood. So what I'll do is a radius search. So I'll click on radius. I'll just do a drag and drop. We have a few in here. I'm going to go back to criteria. So in a suburban neighborhood, I like to keep it under a mile radius, but sometimes even tighter is better, especially if this is a cookie cutter kind of neighborhood, a tract style, everything's kind of the same. And I go plus or minus 20% to start of the square footage. So we'll do living area, and we'll just do 2,000 to 2,600. We'll say that home is, maybe a 2,300 square foot home. So that's going to be a little less than 20% either way, but we're only coming up with one match. Slow neighborhood. So if you get that issue where it's a slow moving neighborhood, then that's when I would expand out the search criteria. So I'd go back there, I'm going to delete, and we will expand it out a little bit into some of these other neighborhoods. And that's going to bring in a few extras, it looks like. And I'll bump up the square footage just a tad. I actually don't know that they have 1,900 square foot homes in that neighborhood, but we will see. So this is going to be just 4 matches, and we're going back 180 days on this. Let's see how the results look. So these Byrons, this I can see a little better. So what we're seeing here is we have some larger square footage or lot sizes. It looks to be fairly consistent in the 10,000 square foot range. We have a kind of a grouping here. We're all in the same zip code. This is a cusp area, so I do pay attention to zip codes because this borders it and it gets into different school districts. So I do take that into consideration. No homes came up in this additional zip code, so that works well for me. Square footages are fairly tight, but look at here, we have this Park Drive, we have a 1977, whereas everything else is late 90s. So I would actually kick that one out. So in this instance, I would continue expanding out in my radius until I got a little better grouping of homes. This one here, I would kick out, I would refine it, narrow. So that way there, we can get a little, some more to deal with. I'd like to get to at least 10 comps, so I would just keep expanding out criteria from here. I don't know if you want me to keep going or not, but basically I would probably bring this out to maybe this college area. It's going to start getting up into these other neighborhoods up here where there's probably going to be some more sales, and then work it from there. I want to look to see if there's pools. I want to look to see if there's views, and I want to see if the homes that are listing now are priced higher or lower or about the same as the ones that have sold, because those sold homes are, while the appraisers are going to use those are older data. You know, that's what the market was 2 and 3 months ago. So right now it'd be important, you know, we're in somewhat of a slower time of year, kind of in quotes, it typically does slow down a little bit. Listings start coming off the market, things like that. So we need to pay attention to, you know, how market times are looking and how the prices are going. So because we don't want to be too far ahead of the curve or too far behind the curve. You know, if we're thinking that, hey, everything is just going up and up and up in price, and then you go and take a look and you price it that way, when in fact maybe there's a little lull in the market, you could find yourself with, you know, some longer market times. You could find that you maybe price the home a little too high. So keep all that stuff in mind when you're pricing out the home. I just had that happen on a listing up in Murrieta, where prices were going up and up and up. And then when I went and comped the home just a couple of weeks ago before I listed it, I noticed that everybody in the neighborhood, there was 7 listings in the neighborhood, and all of them had price reductions. And so I had to have a quick conversation with the seller that, hey, you know, we don't want to be too aggressive with the pricing because there's a lot of price reductions right now, and we don't want to be in that same boat where we have to reduce the price because we were reaching too high. So we ended up pricing just a touch behind what they thought they wanted, and we ended up getting into multiple offers anyways, which was great. They had a really desirable home. So keep all that in mind. I do have on this sheet my full breakdown of how I comp homes, basically, kind of in an old school manner. So this will prevent any of those outliers that you might see on like RPR or something like that, where, you know, everything is 600,000, then all of a sudden there's a couple $1 million sales in there. Obviously, those are not good comps to use. So we'll get down into things to include in your listing presentation. First and foremost, swagger. You know, I mean, when you exude confidence in yourself and your ability, people want to work with you. And truthfully, I think that that goes further than any fancy presentation that you might have out there. People want to know that you're confident, that you know what you're talking about. And even if, you know, this is your first listing or you don't take a lot of listings, you know, being confident in what you're doing and, you know, that you're confident in the price that you came up with, that's going to go a long way when you're talking to your potential sellers. Comparables. Obviously, people want to see why you are suggesting a certain price point for their home. More than likely, they're looking on third-party sites. You know, they see maybe bad comps in there that are giving them, you know, false hope in what they can actually sell their home for. So I always bring the comparables. I bring it hard copy, and I bring 2 copies of them because I will actually sit at the table and go through with them the comps that I'm using, the pictures of the comps, so they can actually see that some of these homes that we're selling for certain prices were either in better condition or maybe worse condition than theirs, and this is why I'm suggesting this price. It also shows them market times, it shows them price reductions, and sometimes it just brings their expectations more in line with what is actually happening in the market, because the news that they're hearing probably is going to be 2 to 3 months behind what we are actually seeing as realtors day to day, because we're in it and we know what's going on in the neighborhood. Marketing plan. They want to know that you have a plan that works to sell their home for the highest price. I have a pretty general one that I use. It can obviously vary based on the scenario of the home. I mean, if I'm talking to the seller and they have a notice of trustees filed on the home, then I may not go through the whole thing because mine does include some delay time and prep on the home. I might need to get that home on the market right away. So obviously things can adjust, but generally most homes fall into my marketing plan scenario, which I'll go over next. And the contract. I always bring a listing and contract with me. I bring a hard copy. I have it available for a DocuSign as well, but I always bring the hard copy, and my goal is to get that signed before I leave the listing appointment. I don't want them to start talking to other, you know, competing agents. More than likely, they're bringing a listing contract, and they're going to be aggressive with getting that signed. So I bring that along with me. I go through it a little bit, and then, you know, if everything goes well, I get the signatures. Basically, don't overthink your overall presentation. You know, these are kind of the basics. I don't know if anybody else has any others that they always bring, but these are the 4 things that I always bring to my listing presentations. And I, you know, have a pretty high success rate of getting that listing when I leave. Let's see, marketing plan. So obviously every scenario is going to be a little different, but my basic marketing plan goes like this. Once a listing agreement is signed with the market date, I always put the home on the market on the Friday. I try and get it in there, you know, late morning, so that everybody has time to see it. It gets syndicated, so on and so forth. So my listing day typically is Friday. I talk to them about preparing their home, decluttering, repairs, updates, etc., to be completed before the photo shoot. So, you know, let's say that I'm on the listing appointment on a weekend and they want to get their home on the market the following Friday. I say, okay, here's the things that I recommend that you do. to get this prepared for the photo shoot. And I always do professional photos, unless, you know, maybe we have a hoarder home situation or something like that, then it might just be an exterior photo. And then I'm gonna, you know, state that in the remarks basically and market it a little, market it accordingly. But if we have someone that's striving for the highest price, they have a nice listing or even, you know, an average listing, this is, you know, what I do. And I do the professional photo shoot. I do the professional photo shoot for a couple reasons. One, it does generate more excitement about the home. It can help obtain a higher price. I don't polish up the photos too much. There's some photo companies out there that do make the home, I don't think they represent the home well. So one of the services that I use is Previews First. I think they do a really good job of doing great photos, but they're not highly polished to where when the buyer goes to the home, they say, oh, this doesn't look like the pictures at all. Like they match it up pretty good. The other reason I do the professional photo shoots is it's building my resume of how I list homes. And I can use that in future listing presentations, or if someone has seen my stuff online, they know that every time I list a home, it looks the same and they know what to expect. Any noticeable repairs or updates that are needed, I get them started and completed before the photo shoot takes place. If staging is required, have the staging complete before the photo shoot. Professional photos, if you're doing the video, you're doing the Matterport scheduled, and I like to have those back by Thursday. So I try and make sure that I order that. Keep in mind, most of your photographers are going to be, you know, a couple days out, maybe 2 or 3 on appointments, maybe more if they're in high demand in the area. So I try and get my photo shoots on a Wednesday, and then that way there I can have all my stuff back by Thursday or Friday at the latest to make sure I have that in the MLS when I list it. That's also when I have my yard sign up. I use a service for that as well. They come and put the post up and my sign. There's, you know, these services are in pretty much every market. I do show up to the photo shoot because the photographer generally does not take the time to move stuff around and make a room look better. They go in there, they take their photos with their angles. So I want to make sure that all the drawers are closed. We don't have loose wires hanging out. You know, I don't really like dog beds and things like that on the floor. You know, try and remember we're selling space here, so we don't want the countertops to be cluttered with small appliances. We don't want lots of things on the floor, if possible, that could be easily removed while that shoot is in that room. So sometimes I just move stuff to the next room, they do the photo, and then I go and move it back. So I'm usually constantly on the move, kind of just making sure each room looks exactly how I want it as they're going through the photo shoot. This is also a good time to do, you know, any teaser video or walkthrough that you may want to do for your social media channels. Talk about it being photo shoot day, you know, starting to build a little excitement for the home to your audience. It's also a good time to get your Avid done. I know for a lot of agents, that's the bane of their existence, is doing the Avid, and it's usually overlooked or done late. This is a good time to get that done as well. You know, take 20 minutes to go through the home, do your Avid so that you have that ready. Add the listing to MLS. So when this is on Friday, or maybe I already have it saved in there as incomplete Wednesday or Thursday, just waiting for the photos. I complete as much info as possible on the MLS itself. I fill in as many fields as I can. I give as much info as I can about the home, room sizes, etc. Because all this stuff is being syndicated. So you'd be surprised how much buyers are really looking at all that information to determine if they actually want to make an appointment to see this home or not. So the more info I can give them up front, the better chance that I have of these buyers genuinely being interested in viewing this home when they schedule the appointment. They know, based on the photos and the information that I have in there, that this home is going to probably work for them. Their room sizes are good. It has the extra family room. They wanted a fireplace, so on and so forth. They know it has all of those check boxes for them, or at least most of them. Write a catchy description. I know this can get kind of mundane if you're taking a lot of listings, or maybe you're not super creative. There are some services out there that will write catchy descriptions for you for the public remarks. You can check into those. Be sure you add in all your photos, exclude any that didn't turn out well. Maybe it's a weird angle, or maybe it's a really tight room and it looks like you're just taking a picture of a bed, basically. I don't always include those. And then I like to organize them in a way that it looks like they're coming through the front door and actually walking around the house. So I just don't put them in randomly. It's into the front door, it's into the entry, it's into the family room, it's into the kitchen, and it's kind of as if they're walking through the home is how I organize my photos. And then be clear on your showing instructions and the way that you're accepting offers. Is there a deadline date? Do you have a link? Our property system does provide a listings link to accept offers into a dashboard. So, are you using that? Are you just accepting it via email? What is that email? What are the showing restrictions? Do they need time? Are there dogs that need to be removed? So on and so forth. So make sure all that stuff is clear in there for the agents. If you're planning to hold open houses, the first weekend on the market is the optimal time to do this. And add your planned open house dates to the MLS when you make this thing live, so they also get syndicated. So if you're listing on a Friday, I try to set up open houses for Saturday and Sunday. If you're not available, there's always agents out there that will hold open houses for you. But this is the optimal time to do the open houses. That's when there's the most excitement about the home. And truthfully, I use those open house opportunities in those first couple weeks, in the first weekend, to get as many showings in during that time. I usually ask the seller to leave, and maybe they leave from 10 to 6 or something that day. And I just make it really easy to get all the traffic through to the home. And usually by the end of the weekend, I already have offers coming in. So we just went on that. I recommend to my sellers that we hold off on offers, or at least reviewing them, until at least Monday morning of the following week. That way there we have time to get everybody through the home. They can spend the Monday talking with the lender if they need to, updating pre-approvals, so on and so forth. Truthfully, the next Tuesday is probably the best, so it gives the buyers that day to get with their lender. Maybe their lender's a little behind or slow or something like that, but it gets them time to get all their updates done, get their ducks in a row before they make their offer. So I try and wait till the following Tuesday actually to present my offers, and more than likely you're going to have multiple offers, especially in this current market. But even in a more stable market, you will probably still have multiple offers using this method of listing your homes. So I don't know if anybody wants to pipe in on anything else that they do that's best practices for them. You can just type in the chat, but otherwise, if you want to go more in depth on preparing for a listing, you can schedule time with me. I have a link in my email signature now. You can schedule some time with me. I'd be happy to go through a listing presentation with you, or dive into any of these topics a little bit further. And again, I will send out this replay along with this document, so you can have it, especially the comping homes part. I'm happy to do that with you one-on-one as well. So I think it's a great way to price homes, not using the automated value system. So with that said, I hope everybody has a great week, and we will talk to you soon.